Normally, I'd combine my top 10 best cards with the Pokemon TCG Live Crafting Guide. But given that Journey Together is the first new set of our brand new post rotation meta, I thought I'd spread them apart like cheeks. It's definitely not because I finally realized that TCG Live is not an attractive game for people to watch and I need to artificially increase my YouTube views in other ways. 100% not that. Anyways, let's pretend the list is a Kleenex and blast through it. This might seem like it's coming out of left field like a Juan Soto throw, but Lily's Clefairy EX is the best card coming in Journey Together. Purely on its own merit, Lily's Clefairy would not be here. It's a 2-prizer with just 190 hit points, and its attack is the same as Raikou V and Hentai V before it. 20 base damage plus 20 more for each bench Pokemon on both sides of the field. Good, yes, but not good enough to make an impact like that energy card nobody used. Well, that's where the ability comes in. Lily's Clefairy EX gives your opponent's Dragon Pokemon a Psychic Weakness. With Raging Bolt and Dragapult slated to be the top 2 best decks in our post-rotation format, and neither having a weakness, Lily's Clefairy gives you a chance against them. In fact, Clefairy is so good that several decks are splashing it in. Not in a million years would you have expected a Clefairy card in your Charizard EX deck. Well, because of the post-rotation Dragon Supremacy, you need a copy in there. Now, because of the nature of trainers, I have to get a little creative with my top 10 list. While I could include Lily's Pearl separately somewhere in the top 10 as it's a great card, it really only has one use. Kinda like women, am I right? I mean, like men, am I right? Gotta raise that 5.2% female viewership. Anyways, you attach a Lily's Pearl to Clefairy EX, and if it gets knocked out by damage from an attack, they take one less prize card. Against Raging Bolt, this essentially turns Clefairy into a single prizer. Against Dragapult EX, as long as they don't know how to do math with Dusknoir and Dragapult pings, it turns Clefairy into a single prizer. And against other decks with linear strategies, it gives you a chance to put your opponent on odd prizes. So even against non-dragon decks, Clefairy can still be useful, putting a chunk of damage on them while only offering up a single prize in return. As a reminder, there's no real order to these top 10 lists. Except for number 1, Lily's Clefairy easily takes top spot. But for everything else, you could pretty much swap any other cards in the top 10 and it would make sense. The only reason I put numbers next to them is to masterfully bait out comments from people who don't watch the full video. If you're not going to help my watch time, you're going to help my engagement, damn it. Anyways, for the people who skip to this exact moment, Hop's Dubwool absolutely deserves to be in second place on this list. Unfortunately, I didn't give Dubwool the attention it deserved when it was first revealed. Now, at least in Japan, it's Dragapulted Archaludon EX to new heights. You run a 2-2 line of Dubwool, and when you evolve into it, you can freely dust up any of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Since Archaludon is losing Dialga V-Star with rotation, Dubwool is a decent replacement, allowing you to more betterly choose targets. And since Archaludon already runs Turo and Scoop Up Cyclone, you can always bring up a Dubwool instead, giving yourself even more gust potential. Continuing the Hop love, we have almost all of his cards. While Japanese players are trying to pretend like N is better, those of us who've yet to take a journey together know Hop is the #1 new trainer. As a quick aside, you don't know how excited I was to announce Close Cleavage with Zacian every single game, but then the Pokemon Company International ruined the fun and renamed Close Cleave to Instastrike, which is almost as bad as them changing Scovillain EX's Super Hot Yeehaw to Super Spicy Breath. It's unforgivable, I say. Anyways, Hop's headlining card is Zacian EX. For 1 colorless energy, Instastrike does 30 damage to their active plus 30 damage to a bench Pokemon. With Manaphy gone, that allows you to Iron Bundle a Badoo to the bench and KO it. Then there's Brave Slash. For 3 metal and a colorless, it does 240, but it can't use Brave Slash the following turn, unless of course it switches. What pushes Zacian over the edge is 3 other Hops cards. Snorlax, Hop's Choice Band, and Postwick all increase the damage his Pokemon deal by 30. Plus, Choice Band reduces the attack cost of his Pokemon by 1 colorless. So for 3 metal energy, Zacian can swing for 330, one-shotting things like Dragapult EX and Charizard EX. And if you're worried about getting Zacian powered up, don't forget that it has access to Archaludon EX and Metang, with Archaludon being by far the more common option. It's also worth pointing out that Hop's Bag is a thing. All it does is grab 2 basic Hops Pokemon from the deck and put them directly onto the bench. So it's essentially Battle VIP Pass for the whole game for Hop's Pokemon. Yeah, no big deal, just, super crazy. Not to be outdone, N is right behind Hop. Just don't look at Japanese tournament results, those are lies. While N has access to a few other Pokemon like Joltik and Purloin, the only ones you need to care about are Zoroark, Reshiram, and Darmanitan. Zoroark is the main attraction as its ability is the same as Zoroark GX's. Discard a card from your hand, draw 2 cards. Then for 2 Darkness Energy, it can copy the attack of any of your benched Ends Pokemon. Darmanitan is great, allowing you to hit their active for 90 and snipe 90 to the bench. It's perfect for KO and 2 Dracloak in one go, making Dragapult players cry in the process. And while it's very matchup specific, Darmanitan's first attack does give you the edge against the Roulette EX, as it does 30 damage for each energy card in their discard pile. It's also worth noting that Zoroark decks run 2 Reversal Energy, giving you the ability to attack with Darmanitan when necessary. Then we have Reshiram. At its worst, Reshiram allows Zoroark to hit for 170 each turn. Not great, though it is enough to KO a Squawkabilly EX or anything weak to Dark. At best, your Zoroark takes 200 damage to the face from a Dragapult, then you copy Powerful Rage and smack him in the cannon hole for 400. But Pilot, I hear you say, you can nae play a Zoroark in 2025 when Dark Patch is rotated? That's where N's PP up comes in. You see, when you take N to the amusement park and he sees a Ferris wheel, he's able to accelerate 1 basic energy from your discard pile to one of your benched N's Pokemon. So it's basically just N's Dark Patch, except it works for any type of N-ergy. Get it? N-ergy? Also, N's Castle exists, giving all of his Pokemon free retreat, and thus making his PP go up even higher. Circling back around to Hop, his Cramorant gets its own placing in 5th. Why? Because it's not inherently tied to the Hop archetype. If your opponent has exactly 3 or 4 prize cards remaining, it does 120 damage for 1 colorless energy. That's okay on its own, as it's splashable in almost every deck. But pair it with Hop's Choice Band, Snorlax, and Postwick, now you have a single prizer dealing 210 damage for free. Obviously, it will be included in every Hop Zacian EX deck since all the necessary cards are already there. But if you can afford the space, Cramorant becomes a really nasty backup attacker. I mean, put this thing in Frostlass Badoo and laugh as you deal 180 damage with Fickle Spitting on back-to-back turns to the Raging Bolt because the stupid thing doesn't have an ability. In a similar vein to Hop's Cramorant, Dunsparce EX is a card that can be thrown into a lot of decks. As you'll hear me talk about quite a bit this month, the Pokemon Company won't let you play with your Beaver anymore. I know, I'm as disappointed as you. So when it comes to universal ability-based draw, we lose arguably our best option. That means we now have to rely on Pheasantipede EX, Baby Revavroom, and Dunsparce. What gives Dunsparce the edge is the fact that it sends itself back into the deck, preventing it from being trapped in the active or Dragapulted, and it can be played in decks that don't run a ton of energy. With Journey Together, you can add Dunsparce EX to the list of reasons why it's better. For a single colorless energy, it does 60 damage for each Pokemon EX on your opponent's side of the field. It's not game-breaking by any means, because, I mean, how often do you see a Dragapult or Charizard deck have 6 EX Pokemon in play at once? But against something like Raging Bolt, it can take a KO for 1 energy, and that can't be ignored. While you might not be, I'm a believer in Mamoswine EX. The ability is great, allowing you to grab any Pokemon you want every single turn. That's important because its attack does 180 base damage plus 40 more for each Stage 2 Pokemon on your bench. Get 4 Stage 2s on the bench, deal 340 damage, one-shotting Dragapult and Charizard. It's just an overall solid card that's been seeing moderate success in Japan. Naturally, you have to pair it with other Stage 2 Pokemon, and Pidgeot EX is one of the best. It can grab Rare Candy, while Mamoswine can grab the Stage 2. In terms of energy acceleration, because Mamoswine's attack is 2 fighting, you'll have to rely on Garganacl, which not only attaches from the discard pile, but heals 30 as well. While there's a noticeable drop-off in terms of power level from Trainer's Pokemon to regular Pokemon in Journey Together, Mamoswine will at the very least be a fun deck to try on my YouTube channel, which you probably aren't subscribed to right now. I will never forgive the Pokemon Company for cutting Blaziken EX from Prismatic Evolutions, thus shattering my dreams of pairing it with Radiant Greninja before rotation. The attack on Blaziken EX is alright, dealing 200 damage for 2 energy, though that is enough to one-shot an Archaludon EX that didn't shut off its weakness. But the ability is what makes it good. Once during your turn, accelerate a basic energy from your discard pile to any one of your Pokemon. You could pair it with Mamoswine or make it the backbone of a toolbox deck featuring Lily's Clefairy EX. I've also seen players in Japan pair it with Greninja EX and Dragapult EX, because as you know, Dragapult has such a tough time destroying your deck. It totally needs all the help it can get. At the very least, Blaziken EX opens up a whole new world of strategy. While I'm mostly including it on this list to air my grievances about it arriving 2 months late in English, I still think Blaziken EX is at least playable enough to warrant its spot here. I will never forgive the Pokemon Company for cutting Lilligant from Prismatic Evolutions, thus shattering my dreams of pairing it with Radiant Charizard before rotation. Get Lilligant into play, now your Grass and Fire type Pokemon's attacks do 20 more damage to your opponent's active. Yeah, Pokemon TCG Live will probably screw it up and give a 40 damage boost to the double type Scovillain and Scovillain EX, but for the most part, you're going to want to pair Lilligant with Dipplin Thwackey. Because Lilligant's ability stacks, you can put two of them into play, fill up your bench, and now Dipplin is dealing 140 damage twice, assuming Festival Grounds is down. We'll have to wait and see what future Grass and Fire type Pokemon look like, as it's slim pickings right now for good Lilligant partners. Still, Lilligant has the potential to be a great card over the next 2 years, assuming the Pokemon Company doesn't forget that it exists again. You'll notice that Ino isn't in the 10th spot. I know I should put her here for continuity, but I genuinely believe that Volcanion EX is more universally useful. Put it in your active spot, burn your opponent's active. While Volcanion likely won't attack, it gives basic heavy decks an easy way to put at least 20 extra damage on the field. And thanks to Latias EX, retreating Volcanion is easier than subscribing to me on YouTube. I've seen Volcanion EX thrown into a lot of different decks, with the most common partner being that Lily's Clefairy Terra Box thing that's doing really well in Japan right now. Again, being able to get at least 20 more damage for very little effort cannot be overlooked. Just keep in mind that Switch Card is rotating on March 27th, so getting someone like Latias EX trapped in the active because Switch is your only Switch card is a real threat. At least for Volcanion, it's tougher to stall out thanks to Burn, but losing via Trap Stall is something to be aware of. At this point, lesser YouTubers would give honorable mentions because they're weak and don't have a gigantic brain like me that doctors are frankly quite concerned about. But I'm tired of talking and want you to watch my crafting guide video this weekend, so I'll stop here. Leave your top 10 in the comments below or give the video a like. You have to do one or the other. I know, but I don't make the rules, I just enforce them.